Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations. We're going to go ahead and get started on getting everything inventory set up. Now, before we can create the widget UI, we need to make sure that we get the data side of inventory set up and also get it connected with the combat. Obviously, if you have your own combat, then you would ignore the combat portions of this, but it would still be the exact same thing for the inventory. So let's go ahead and get started with setting up the inventory first. Uh, Obviously, the first thing you'll want to do is to go into your plugins and then gameplay and turn on Ninja Inventory and restart. Once you have done that, there are several asset manager things that we need to set up. Now, obviously, we get to choose where they are set up, but we want to make sure we have the folder structure in place. Now, there are 4 things that we will need. So bear with me as I think of the best folder structure as we go along with this. So first thing we'll want to do is to come in here into inventory. And then here within inventory, we want to have a folder called data. Sorry, we're not going to have one called data. We want to have one called containers. And then we want to have one that is called items. And then one more that is called equipment. Those are the 3 that we need for our 4 data assets. So now let's go into project settings, go into our asset manager, and 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one here, we're going to name inventory container data. And it's going to be of type Ninja inventory container data asset. And that one is obviously going to be in the directory of our inventory containers. The next one that we're going to do is for the items. So we will name this one inventory item data. And then Ninja inventory item data asset. And for the directory library for it, we obviously want it to go into inventory items. Now, next thing we are going to do, this one is equipment data. Ninja equipment data asset. And then this one will structurally go into inventory and equipment. I'm just going to copy this for the final one. For the last one, we want equipment slot data. This one we won't touch over in the next 2 episodes. We'll eventually get to it, but it's important to know where it is located. And this one is Ninja equipment slot data asset. And it goes in the same place as the other equipment item. There we go. Now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and jump into, sorry, there's quite a bit here. I thought I had the page open and I did not. There we go. Now we need to set up the gameplay attributes for the inventory. Similar to what we did with the normal attributes, the first thing we want to do is we're going to open up the container drawer here. I'm going to go into inventory. I'm going going to name this data. And I'll, excuse me, open it up. And I will create a new data table. That's an attribute metadata, DT inventory attributes. Open it up. I will have in the link the JSON file location if you want to read it in the documentation. I'll also have a link to the actual JSON file that I am using. It's the exact same one. I'm going to hit open, and I'm going to come here to the backpack slot and change it to 20. Save. Now the next thing we need to do is go to the, open up here, come over here to gas, the data table. We need to open up the gas setup. And here in the define attributes, we're going to open it up. This is where we define the attributes for the combat stuff. And we'll look for inventory, and we'll look for inventory. We'll hit save. Just to make sure, we can hit play. If you've already typed it when you debugged, you can just hit the up arrow, hit enter, and backpack slots 20, weight limit 100, encumbrance 0. So that stuff did set up. That's what we needed. All right. Now that we know that that is working, there's quite a few steps now that we need to make sure that we do correctly. First things first, you guys, a new set of steps have been added simply because of Fab and the creator's infinite wisdom to make it impossible for plugins to communicate one with another without additional help. What I mean by that is Uriel had set it up to where if you had both inventory and combat, there were some additional files in the inventory that would then attach to the combat, so that all we had to do was add a data asset, change a class, and we were good to go. But with Fab, they now changed the names internally of the file structure. So that means the Ninja inventory is looking for a file path that is no longer there. So that's where the problem comes in. So now we have a few extra steps that we will go through right now. So the first thing that we are going to want to do is change some things in the weapon. So the first thing we do, go to your base weapon, wherever you may have it, and we need to add a component called Ninja Equipment Receiver. Compile and save. Make sure there's nothing we do in there. There's not. All right, the next thing we need to do is we need to come down to the melee interface. Sorry, that doesn't look like it is. Get weapon owner. That's why we need to, before we go into this next step, is add an interface. And this interface is the equipment actor interface. I'll hit compile and save. Now we come down here to interfaces. Now we want to get weapon owner, which is, I believe, yeah, it's in the weapon interface. Get weapon owner. Excuse me. And the first thing we want to do is get this equipment receiver. I'm going to open this up all the way. We need some space here. There's quite a bit we need to do. Disconnect that for now. And the first thing we are going to do is pull out of the Ninja equipment receiver and do get equipment. Then after that, we will first make sure that it is valid. Do the question mark one. Perfect. If it is not valid, first we're going to want one of these. Copy, paste. No matter what, we will be doing this part. If it's not valid, we will get owner so that it at least returns something. If it is valid, get equipment manager, and then get owner. And don't just copy and paste the get owner because they are different. As you see, target is actor component. It's important that you make sure that you do that. The next thing that we need to do is in the melee interface. And it is the get hit effect level. And this one is far more busy. There's quite a few things to do, and that is quite all right. So let's go ahead and drag this out. Disconnect it. First thing we want to do is get the receiver. Drag out of there. Get equipment. We want the owner, we want the equipment itself. And we are going to set this as a local variable. It's important that you make sure that this and any other variable that I tell you needs to be local is a local variable. Otherwise, it will not work. Errors will pop up in the compiler results, and it'll be because these need to be local variables. All right. Now with that hit into home, we do another is valid because we want to make sure that the equipment is indeed valid. Next thing we will do is a sequence node. We want to make sure certain things happen in a specific order before we continue on. And there will be 3 pins. First thing we are going to want to do out of the equipment is get item. Once we have done that, sorry, I gotta clean it up. Won't let me, my brain won't let me go otherwise. Drag out, set local variable. And we are going to name this one level. And then that goes into there. Return value, it returns the object. I'm not sure why Pasc has it named as level. Most likely because we get the level from it. The level of the weapon. The next thing we want to do in the one section is we need to pull level control, drop it in there, right click, convert to validated get. So this is essentially the same as is valid, only into one node. If it is not valid, let's go ahead and put this right like that. And we are going to pull out of here and promote to variable. This one does not need to be local. And we're going to call this default level. There. Now, if it is valid, we need to pull out of here, find fragment by class. And the fragment we are looking for is level. And then we will drag out of here and create a new local variable. We'll call this one level fragment. drag that into the is valid. So essentially what this means is if there isn't one, it'll return what's going on, and the default level will be 0. If it is 0, then that means it's just not going to look for a level. That way, if you have gameplay, the gas system allows you to um, put levels attached to the effects, and that's essentially what it's looking for your weapons. That way, if you have that set up, if you don't, and the weapon is always going to do this damage, and then it's not going to find the level fragment, and it's going to just return 0. Easy peasy. I know it's probably a little confusing, but we will get to that when we get to that. Now, before we continue on to 2, we want to copy the default level and return node, place it directly underneath the sequence, and for the is not valid, we will place this right here. Yes. Now let's go on to step 3, which is then 2. We are going to get our level fragment, convert it to a validated get. Then, again, if it's not valid, we want this return node with the default level of 0. Then we will drag out of here, get level. Not 100% sure why this is empty. Can't put anything in it anyways, so I think it's just there. That's part of how the blueprint code works. And then we will we will copy the return node. And for the is valid, plug that into here. All right. That is what we have to do to the weapons. The next thing we need to do is we need to create our an actor component. This actor component is replacing the component that he made to help communicate the weapon with the equipment, with the inventory plugin. So let's go ahead and go into our content drawer, go back to content, and I don't have one, but we're going to do this in inventory, blueprints, new folder, components, right click, blueprint class, actor components, and we will name this one, I do AC for actor components, but if you do BP, it's fine. It's your own naming convention. And I'm going to do equipment weapon manager. I believe that's the full name that I gave it. Yes, it is. All right. Now we will open it up. And there are a few things we need to make sure we do. The first thing that we're going to do is go to the class settings. And then we are going to implement the combat weapon manager interface. All right. The next thing we will do is the get weapon function. We will, of course, like we've been doing, drag this way over here. We don't need it right now. And we are going to get a sequence node again. We want 3 sequence pins. The first thing we're going to do is get owner of the component, and then get equipment manager, and drag out of here. Oh, yeah, that's right. We don't want to just do set. This is a local variable. Equipment manager. All right. The next thing we are going to do is get our manager here. I'm going to clean this up a bit. Put you up there. Right click, convert to validated get. Then one goes right here. So the next thing, what we're doing next, we'll send the query to the equipment manager and we'll retrieve the first instance of that query that is found. So if nothing is found, let's go ahead and put this node right here. Is not valid, we'll return if the equipment manager is not found. If it is found, we will drag out of the equipment manager plugin, do get first equipment by query, and then we will right click and type in weapon query, which will get us the weapon query. If you're unsure where this came from, weapon query, if you look at the function weapon query, that's what the arrow and the F mean, that it comes from the function itself. We'll drag that into here. Then we will drag out of here, set local variable, name it equipment. Okay. Now that we have that, we will now get our equipment. By now it's pretty obvious what we're doing. Convert to validated get. All right. Now that we have that, if we don't get anything, return and give us nothing. If there is something, we need to get effect causer actor, and which is the weapon. And again, this needs to be a local variable, and we'll name it weapon. We now need to check for is valid. For this one, we don't need the question mark one. And then we'll also pull out of here and check does object implement interface. And the interface we are looking for is the combat weapon interface. Yep, just wanted to make sure. We'll pull out of this top one, type in and to give us an and boolean, so we can put those together. Hold down the B button and left click to bring up a branch. And this way, we can get the return node. Do this. So if false, it will return nothing. If true, it will return the weapon. And there we go. So now that we've gone and set up everything here, the next step is going to be creating the inventory, what's the word I'm looking for? Containers, and then making the items and the equipment. And we will do that in the next video because we're already longer than I would like to be for us to continue any further. So in the next video, we'll get the rest of it set up so that we can get the interface, the widgets made. See you in the next episode.